Good morning and welcome to Meta Mondays. I am your host, Dr. Linda Williams Lockhart, and I'm doing this podcast from the beautiful Dubai in the UAE. I apologize for the background noise. I am shooting from Dubai at our hotel, sitting around the beach, so please disregard the movement and the noise. Today we're still in John chapter 11, verses 28 through 37. And I want to read this to you so that you can get a gist of what's going on. So it's John chapter 11, verses 28 through 37. And it reads as thus. When she had said this is me talking about Martha. She left and called Mary, her sister, saying secretly, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." And when she heard this, she got up quickly and came to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still at the place where Martha met him. Then the Jews who were with her in the house and were consoling her, when they saw that Mary had gotten up quickly and left, they followed her, thinking that she was going to the tomb to weep there. So when Mary came to the place where Jesus was, she saw him and fell at his feet, saying to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and was troubled. And he said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." And then the most powerful verse 35 says, Jesus wept. So the Jews were saying, "See how he loved him?" But some of them said, "Could this man who opened the eyes of the man who was blind not have kept this man from dying?" So the topic for today, Jesus wept and Jesus weeps. Jesus wept and Jesus weeps. Let's step into the scene here. So Martha calls her sister. She tells her sister, "The teacher is here and he's asking for you." I want you to picture this. Mary was in her home and she's weeping. She's surrounded by mourners. You know how it is when someone passes away. We go to their home to console them, to comfort them. You know, here with Mary, the air is heavy with sadness, and then she hears that Jesus, her friend, her Lord, is waiting outside the village. Even in the middle of heartbreak, Jesus calls her by name. Guess what? Even in the midst of our heartbreak, Jesus calls us by name. He doesn't forget us when we're silent or overwhelmed. He comes close and he whispers, "I'm here." There are times when we may not feel that he is, but he's always with us. Jesus doesn't correct Martha. He doesn't say, "Don't cry." He simply feels her pain. This moment reminds us that Jesus welcomes our honest emotions. He's not afraid of our tears or our why questions. Oftentimes we hear, "You can't question God." Well, since God has all the answers, why can't we question him? Where did we learn that from? That you don't question God? Yes, you can. Now, he may choose not to give you his answer as to the why, But I think eventually he will show you the why, because we have to remember that it's always for his glory. So this moment reminds us that Jesus welcomes our honest question, that it's okay to ask him why. So let's keep moving, because in verse 33, it says that when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit, and he was troubled. Now, those words, deeply moved, means something powerful. It's not a quiet sadness. It's a deep staring on the inside that it's a mix of anger and grief. And Jesus feels the full weight of what death does to people he loves. He doesn't watch suffering from a distance. We think he does, but he doesn't. He steps into it. Because there are other moments in the Gospels when Jesus felt pain too. Let me take you back. You remember his cousin John the Baptist was killed? When his cousin John the Baptist was killed? Remember, Jesus withdrew to a quiet place to grieve. You can find that in Matthew 14:13. And when he saw the widow of Nain crying at her son's funeral, his heart went out to her. That's Luke 7:13. When he looked over Jerusalem and saw a city that refused peace, Jesus wept. That's Luke 19:41. And when he was betrayed by Judas, he was denied by Peter and abandoned by his closest friends, he knew the pain of rejection. And in Gethsemane, before the cross, he said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow at the point of death." And you can find that in Matthew 26:38. So Jesus knows pain, not as an observer, but as a participant. He's not a distant savior. He's a compassionate friend. And John 11:35 says these two words, Jesus wept. Think about that. He knows that he's about to raise Lazarus from the dead, and yet he still allows himself to cry. Why? Because he doesn't rush through grief. And because of his love, he feels it. See, as love, he sits beside the hurting and says, "I'm with you." When you cry, or when we cry, Jesus isn't standing off to the side. He's weeping with us. He knows what loss feels like. He knows what loneliness feels like. He's the God who enters our pain before he ends it. Let me say that one more time. He's the God who enters our pain before he ends it. Notice that some in the crowd see his tears, and this is what they said: "See how he loved him." And then others question, could he have kept Lazarus from dying? Isn't that what happened in our lives too? Some people see the goodness of Jesus in our story, while others question, why didn't Jesus act sooner in their lives? Jesus doesn't have to defend himself. He didn't then, and he doesn't now. He just kept walking toward the tomb because his tears are leading somewhere. And soon, his tears will turn to victory. Maybe you're listening today with a heavy heart. Maybe you have the same words as Mary in this passage. "Lord, if you had been here, things wouldn't have happened this way. Well, guess what? You're not alone. Jesus still comes to meet you, not with quick fixes, but with understanding, with empathy, with presence. He sits beside us and he feels our tears and promises that this story, your story, isn't over. And because the same Jesus who wept at the tomb is the same Jesus who called Lazarus out of it. And one day, he'll wipe away every tear, not just with his words, but with his hands that will pierce for you. Jesus wept then, and Jesus is weeping with us now. And so it's hard and it's difficult for us to thank our Savior when we're going through. But we need to thank him when we're going through because he feels our pain. We have to thank him because he doesn't rush through our grief or silence our sorrow. He meets us right where we are, and he cries with us. But see, we have to remember the one who weeps and the one who resurrects, that when our heart is heavy, that he can teach us. It's a teachable moment. He can teach us to trust him in the way. That we need to be reminded that his love is stronger than death. That his compassion will never fail. We can give our Savior our tears, our questions, and our faith. And we can rest in his presence today. And remember, Jesus wept and Jesus weeps with us today. May God bless you. May God keep you. And may you forever feel God's presence in the midst of all of your pain. Jesus wept and he weeps. And until next time, may you have the most amazing day and week. God bless you.